Hey everybody, it's Cauliflower here. I'm bringing you another cryptocurrency video, and today we're going to be talking about the cryptocurrency Pivx. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about Pivx is that Pivx is a very interesting coin in that it's a proof of stake coin that I actually think is going to at some point surpass Bitcoin. The only reason I say that is it's going to have longer longevity than Bitcoin. I don't necessarily know that Pivx will ever reach a same high that Bitcoin will, but I think Bitcoin will drop to zero eventually, and I don't think Pivx really will for, centuries probably, to be honest. And that's really interesting to say because I usually don't like proof of stake coins. The reason I don't like proof of stake coins is their philosophy is generally just to give, or they believe that in order for money to work, you have to give money to free to people who have that money. That usually will kill a coin if that's your only gimmick, if that's all you got, because they don't do proof of work, so they don't have network security through having all these massive computers running, and they say it's better to do it this way because you're not wasting all those resources, but all those resources that they're using on Bitcoin is an assurance of its security. It's got security equal to the resources expended on mining. With Pivx, or with proof of stake currencies, you're a little less sure about their security. Their security can work, but the issue is if you're just paying people for no reason other than holding the currency, you're going to have an issue with that. The reason why I like Pivx is because it's a clone of Dash, and like I said with Dash, the proof of stake in Dash, it's not only just proof of stake, but it's actually mixing, and so Pivx has masternodes just like Dash has masternodes, and so this proof of stake that it has, this continual minting that it has, it's getting paid to make sure that the currency stays private. And so not only will Pivx have the Dash coin join, but it also have zero coin, zero knowledge, and so Pivx might actually be potentially the most private coin on basically all networks, and because it's got this continual mining, it's got low fees, and its total market cap is super low right now. The total price of it's like $3, but if you look at the supply of Pivx, it's way different than other currencies, so don't look at that. Look at the total market supply. It's about 41,000 Bitcoin. So if you there's like 16.5 million Bitcoin in existence, so 25 times 41,000 is approximately 1 million, and since that's a little over 1 million, we'll just do 16 million, so we'll do the 25 times 16, so that's 250 plus 6 times 25 is 150. That's 400, so it's 1/400th the price of Bitcoin. So that actually gives it a lot of opportunity for growth. And again, it's proof of stake, so that causes it issues. But I talked about this mining before. It's actually minting is what they call it with proof of stake. But anyways, it's at the continual minting point where it's not going to drop any lower, and it's 5 Pivx, and it's not going to drop below that. The reason why this is good is because it's 5% of the currency. Well, this ensures that the security of the network will stay up. Well, the security of proof of stake, like I said before, it's a little weird to define, but the reason why I think this one will work is because this part of the security of the network is intertwined with the coin join it does, and the masternodes are getting paid for the coin join that they do, and so this actually can kind of help tie everything together. And so there actually is a proof of stake service that they're offering, and that's how this currency is going to, it'll keep private, it'll make sure that there's an incentive for transactions to be verified. And so that's very interesting, and this it actually uses an algorithm. So if there aren't enough masternodes, it'll start paying the masternodes more. So you can always ensure there's going to be enough masternodes. And like I said, the masternodes are the backbone of their proof of stake system. But the final thing that I guess I wanted to talk about here on this page, and I didn't really go over these in order, but you can basically follow along anyways, is the lack of centralization of the mining and ownership. The great thing about Pivx is proof of stake does offer incentives for peer-to-peer systems, and there are, like I said, the way Dash does proof of stake is pretty good. I think Dash pays the masternodes a little too much in the Dash system, but that's just because I don't really like proof of stake all that much. Pivx, like I said, it's completely proof of stake, so if it's proof of stake, then you're going to just have to pay Masternodes, and they do pay Masternodes. So, and they pay. I think usually the idea is to pay Masternodes more. It's hard to tell. They like you'd have to understand the algorithm to understand exactly how they get paid. Who owns Masternodes as opposed to just regular stakers, and I don't know how each one plays into how the privacy of the coin works. But anyways, because of this, there's a lack of centralization of mining and ownership. That's just true of proof of stake, not only of proof of stake, but of any coin that has a continual minting rate. Because if you think about it, in Bitcoin, people who own huge percentages of the currency supply, they're going to own that percentage of the currency supply until they sell. Well, with Pivx, with 5% minting, other people are always continually catching up on you. Obviously, with Pivx, the people who just own that, if there's proof of stake, they should be getting some sort of staking reward as well. But as long as, like the Masternode reward is higher, or whatever, as long as the reward for using your coins for anonymizing the network is higher than just for, not moving your coins, then that's fine. This might be true too, and I don't know enough about the algorithm, and this gets way over my head, I guess, but if the staking of the coins actually provides for the anonymization, even if it's not in a masternode, that's also very useful. But I don't know if that would, and I don't know enough about the algorithm. But anyways, those are the good things about Pivx in general. Let's talk about these things independently, and the first thing I'm going to talk about again is this continual minting. Now, this continual minting is huge on Pivx, and this is why I would not usually talk about a proof of stake coin, but this proof of stake, it's Dash's proof of stake, which means that they're paying people to mix their coins. Now, they might not be paying these people enough. I don't know exactly how the seesaw algorithm works. You'd have to figure that out for yourself. It's a very interesting algorithm. I like the fact that they have an algorithm, but with any algorithm that depends or that calculates how much each segment of the community gets paid, like, it can be wrong, so you want to understand the algorithm. But anyways, the minting, if it's at 5% currently and it just sits there, that means that this block reward will stay basically above 1% for like 100 years. So like it's got an extra 100 years on its lifespan. Like I said, with something like Bitcoin, when the block reward goes to 0, the only way to have network security is to increase fees. With proof of stake coins, that gets really weird. With if there's no block reward. That's why all proof of stake coins have kind of continual rewards. But at least with this one, again, they're providing a service with it, so it actually makes sense. But with this continual reward, it ensures that there's going to be security to the network. Like, there's a reason for people to confirm transactions, because if you confirm transactions, you get paid in terms of the proof of stake for this. For this one, you get paid in terms of proof of stake. Proof of work ones can do it as well. They just don't. And that just means that proof of work coins will have massive fees. So this coin, Pivx, for 40 to 100 years after Bitcoin fees go through the roof, and Bitcoin fees are already around $1. Like, that's ridiculous. $1 to spend a transaction on the Bitcoin network. Like, you can do it, and you can do transactions on applications outside of the Bitcoin network, and then eventually finish them on the Bitcoin network. But like, that should be fixed. But the high transaction fees ensures that, or not the high transaction fees, the high minting rate at 5%. That's not really that high if you think about it. 5% increase in the total supply of coins. That's not that much, but that adds an extra 40 to 100 years of the network security, and that is massive. This Pivx should last far beyond any of the other second generation anonymous coins. Like, Monero will last beyond most of them. Pivx will just go far beyond. It's going to be ridiculous. Now, I'm not saying Pivx will be one of the highest and best performing cryptocurrencies in that time. The fact that it's proof of stake sort of limits it in some ways, but it's going to be there. And as other coins fail, people are going to always turn to coins that have been there, and so money will just keep continually be moving into Pivx. Again, this continual minting ensures low fees. If the total minting is at 5% currently, you're not really paying anything. I don't know exactly how transaction fees work in proof of stake systems. That's kind of a different deal altogether. But even if you were paying some sort of transaction fee, if you're getting paid 5% for your stake, then the stake will cover transaction fees, but I don't think there really are any transaction fees in proof of stake currencies, really. At least if they've got, you know, this continual reward, I don't think there is. I don't know how a proof of stake currency works without a continual reward, to be honest. But anyways, the continual minting also increases the masternode profits. So Dash, eventually, it's going to run into the problem that people aren't going to want to keep using the masternodes, because in order to pay for masternodes, the transaction fees are going to be so high that it's going to be like, why are people going to want to pay for the masternode to be used, you know? So that's the issue again. It's going to run into the same issue that Bitcoin does. It's just like with Bitcoin, instead of like Bitcoin is the proof of work problem, where why will people mine, like why will people run Bitcoin miners and secure the network for the proof of work algorithm? Well, Dash has both problems. People aren't going to mine the proof of work algorithm, and they're not going to do the masternodes unless transaction fees go high. And so then people aren't going to use the currency if transaction fees go high. So either way, people aren't going to use the currency. But for Pivx, obviously there's no proof of work in it. It's just proof of stake. But the continual minting ensures that the masternodes will have profits, and it increases their profits overall. So it's just better to run a masternode in Pivx. I think you'll get more Pivx running masternodes in Pivx than you will in Dash. That technically actually might not be true right now, because Dash is early enough that the coin supply might be pretty a high percentage of the total supply, might be higher than the 5% of Pivx. So that might not actually not be true. It's hard to tell. But anyways, moving on to the next bit. Like I said before, it's 42,000 Bitcoin is the market capitalization of Pivx, so that's huge room for growth. That's 400 times less than the price of Bitcoin. And again, I said this before, Pivx is built for long-term use. The fact that it's got a 5% continual block reward, that just means that it's not set at 5%, it's set at 5 Pivx. Okay, so it's set at 5 Pivx, just like Monero's is set at 0.3 Monero. Pivx is set at 5 Pivx. Well, 5 Pivx right now is about 5% of the current network, so that's much higher than Monero, which is less than 1%. But eventually, like, because it's just continually set at 5 Pivx, that 5% will eventually drop to 0, but that just means like that's going to be 100 or so years. Like, that's a long time until that happens. So Pivx is built for long-term use. It's going to, as the first and second generation cryptocurrencies die, like as Bitcoin dies, as Ethereum might not die. I don't know what the Ethereum mining is. Ethereum mining is really weird. For anyone who likes Ethereum, explain your goddamn mining to me. They literally like just made it up for the first like 5 years, as far as I know. Like, they literally just made it up, and then they're like, yeah, we're going to change the proof of stake later. And the proof of work right now, it's like, what the hell are you guys doing? I don't understand Ethereum. But anyways, if Ethereum dies, I'm not going to say Ethereum will die because I don't know enough about it, but as it stands right now, all first and second gen coins will die, except potentially Pivx within, you know, the next 50 years. Like, as the first and second gen coins die in the next 20 to 50 years, Pivx will still be there. And so as they die, it's going to have to grow. That's just the way things work. The next thing I want to talk about is its CoinJoin and zero knowledge privacy. So Dash is obviously a very private cryptocurrency. I talked about it before. Well, this coin Pivx it's theoretically more private than Dash because it also uses zero knowledge. So you can use CoinJoin zero knowledge together, and so that's incredibly useful, just because if Dash is private enough, and Dash is extremely private, it's very hard to learn anything about private individuals in Dash. You can learn things sort of about the network, and there's certain things you can learn about huge actors within the community, but there's not much to be learned. But with or as long as you use the CoinJoin in Dash, you can use Dash sort of publicly. You can't have records, but you can use it privately. But with Pivx, you can have not only the CoinJoin, but you do the zero knowledge of Zcoin. So it's technically speaking, like Pivx is like one of the top dogs as far as privacy is concerned. It should technically be better than zero coin, should technically be better than Dash. Obviously, it's not better than the two-way zero knowledge coins like Zcash or Zencash, but I said before, two-way zero knowledge has its own issues. Like that's sort of a risk using two-way zero knowledge. It's too much privacy. It's too much. So Pivx, as far as trusted standards go, you really can't beat it. There might be others that you might say they're equal, but you really can't beat Pivx as far as privacy is concerned. Again, the zero knowledge it uses, it's RSA based, I do believe. Should be RSA based because it's zero coin knowledge. This says Zcoin knowledge. Zcoin is actually the cryptocurrency. It should say zero coin. Zero coin is the technology. So it does the zero coin knowledge, so it's the one-way RSA based zero knowledge. It's not Zcash or Zencash's two-way ZK snarks, which aren't really tested that well. And that's what this last one says, is that the RSA based, it's the best tested coin join in zero knowledge. Well, the RSA is the best tested zero knowledge. Dash has the best coin join. Like the coin join on Dash is flawless. There are a lot of things you can learn about coin joins that aren't very good. Like a lot of the coin join technologies offered to Bitcoin users that you have to pay quite a hefty fee for. A lot of them suck and they don't really do very much. If someone wants to follow you through the coin join, they can. There are some that actually do it well, but Dash's coin join is basically like, that's industry, or you can't say industry standard because there really isn't an industry, but it's standard. Zero coin, zero knowledge technology, it's all the standard. So Pivx uses all the best standard technology that exists. So the next thing I want to talk about here is the masternodes and staking. So staking and masternodes for Pivx can offer an impressive ROI. So that's just to say you'll get paid in terms like a savings account. Right now it's at like 5% of the total supply gets given to masternodes or stakers. I don't know what the percent is to each or exactly what they do for the network. I have to learn a lot more about it. I know the masternodes operate the way Dash does. I don't know what the stakers do if they're just holding on to currency. I think the way it works is that masternodes are generally paid more, and that's just to ensure that there's a primacy or an incentive, more of an incentive for the security aspect and the privacy offered through Pivx. But then anyways, this continual minting increases the profits, and these profits, like, it's easy to get into. It's hard to do a masternode unless you go into somebody's masternode share, but at least with Pivx, then if you can't do a masternode, you've also got staking. So that offers simple savings just to your average user, which is nice. It's always very nice to have. And then finally, it's got a bit of a lack of centralization of mining and ownership, and that's just because of its continual coin emission. That really makes normal users, it makes it a lot easier for normal users to get more coins, because mining, like, it's so hard to mine right now, and a lot of miners don't tell other people how to mine, and like a lot of mining companies, like people who manufacture miners, they keep the miners for themselves because it's just the way the incentives are structured. With the halving of the block reward every 4 years, it's like you make more money to keep it to yourself rather than to sort of help out, and so that centralizes the network and the nodes and the mining. Well, Pivx, the coin emission that it has and that it's easy to get into, it makes it so there's like equivalently sized networks. Should have, like, Pivx will have more nodes. It'll be more of a peer-to-peer system, and so that's always good, especially because having lots of nodes and master nodes makes stealth easy to accomplish. So the fact that Pivx pays people to run nodes through staking and master nodes, it makes people run more nodes, and the more nodes there are, the more private you are, and the more the coin is able to accomplish all the goals that set out to goals, I guess, or set out all the goals that set out to goal, but no, all the goals that set out to accomplish. Like I said before, if you watch my Monero video, Monero ran into an issue when it started. It had such a small community that its transactions might not have been as anonymous as it wanted to offer them to be, but because Pivx offers staking and masternodes, people want to run nodes, so more people will run nodes, and so you won't run into that problem as much. And then finally, I guess that's it. That was the final point. So that's all I have to say about the cryptocurrency Pivx. It'll be interesting to watch.